The sound of my son's voice echoed in the grand hallway of my new home, but it was not his words that froze me. It was the entitlement dripping from them. "Great," he said with a wide grin as he stepped into the marble-floored foyer, his wife trailing behind him with a smirk plastered on her face. "My wife will love to raise our kids here." I clutched the phone in my hand, still warm from the call I had just finished, and forced a smile. My heart pounded, but not from fear. This was the moment I had been waiting for. My daughter-in-law glanced around, her heels clicking arrogantly against the polished floors. She stretched her arms, almost as if she were claiming the space as hers. "You really did well, old lady," she sneered, running her fingers along the golden stair rail. "I have to admit, I didn't think you had it in you. From that cheap rental to this mansion, I guess miracles happen. But don't get used to it. You'll be too old to enjoy it soon." My fingers tightened around the phone. My smile widened. They had no idea. I leaned against the door frame casually, pretending her words didn't sting, even though they sliced through me like shards of glass. I tilted my head, my voice calm and almost sweet as I replied, "Oh, you'll love it here, will you? Let me make a call first." The smirk on her face faltered just slightly, and my son glanced at me with confusion. "What call?" he asked, his brow furrowing. I simply turned away, dialing the number that would change everything. As the line rang, I glanced back at them one more time, letting my voice drip with a quiet confidence they couldn't understand. "You'll see," I said. And then, as the call connected, I uttered 4 words that made their smiles freeze in place. "It's time. Do it." Before they could ask questions, the rumble of engines outside grew louder. 3 black SUVs rolled through the massive gates of my estate. Armed security stepped out, their uniforms crisp and intimidating, forming a line across the driveway. My daughter-in-law's mouth dropped open. My son's face turned pale. "What is this?" he stammered. I let the silence hang for a moment, savouring the fear and confusion in their eyes. Because they didn't know the truth. They didn't know the sacrifices. They didn't know the years I spent renting, mocked and humiliated, saving every dime while they laughed behind my back. And they certainly didn't know what this mansion really meant, or who truly owned it. As the guards stepped inside, blocking the doorway, I whispered to myself, "This is just the beginning." The phone was still in my hand. The power was in my hands. And they had no idea what was about to hit them. Cliffhanger. My daughter-in-law's voice trembled as she stepped back. What's going on? Why are there guards here?" I smiled again, softer this time, almost pitying her. "You'll find out soon enough," I said. And with that, I walked past them, leaving them standing in the foyer as the guards closed in. Just hours before that moment, I had been sitting in the small living room of my rented apartment, staring at the worn carpet and peeling paint. The laughter of my neighbours outside echoed through the thin walls, but it only reminded me of how far I had fallen. For years I had given everything to my son Matthew and his wife Claire. I watched their kids when they needed date nights, loaned them money when they overspent, and even skipped my own doctor appointment so I could help pay their bills. But how did they repay me? With insults, with mockery. I remembered the night it all started. We were at a family barbecue. Everyone was gathered around, eating and laughing, when Claire suddenly turned to me with a smirk. "So," she said loudly, making sure everyone could hear, "how long are you going to keep renting that dump? You know, most people your age have something to their name by now." Laughter rippled through the group. Matthew didn't defend me. He just sipped his drink and looked away. Her words burned in my chest that night. They stayed with me, echoing in my mind every time I came home to my little apartment. "You're going to die poor and alone." That's what she had whispered to me later that evening when no one was around. Her face so close to mine, her voice dripping with venom. Poor and alone. I cried that night, but not for long. Because something in me snapped. From that day on, I worked harder than ever. I picked up shifts at the local diner, I sold baked goods at the farmer's market, and I started a small business online selling handmade crafts. I saved every single penny, no matter how small. While they flaunted their new cars and designer clothes, I quietly built something bigger. And then came the day that changed everything. One of my crafts caught the eye of a boutique owner. Then another. Before long, my online store exploded. Orders were pouring in from all over the country. I hired help, expanded, and eventually sold my business for a life-changing sum. Instead of telling anyone, I kept my success a secret. I stayed in that apartment, letting them believe I was still poor. Then, a few months ago, I bought the mansion. Not just any mansion, this was an estate with iron gates, manicured lawns, and a security team on standby. But I didn't move in right away. I wanted to make sure everything was perfect. I wanted them to see it when the timing was right. And oh, how perfect the timing was when they came uninvited, walking through my doors like they owned the place. Back in the present, as the guards surrounded the foyer, Claire's fake confidence cracked. "Matthew," she whispered, clutching his arm, "tell them to stop. This is our house too, right?" Matthew looked at me, confusion and anger swirling in his eyes. "Mom, what's going on? Why do you have security?" I took a step closer, my heels clicking against the marble. "This," I said calmly, "is my home. Not yours, not hers, mine." Claire scoffed. "Oh, please, you think just because you bought this house you can keep us out?" "Matthew is your son. I'm his wife. We have rights." I tilted my head and smiled, my voice quiet but sharp as a blade. "You have no rights here." Before they could respond, the head of security approached me. "Ma'am," he said respectfully, "the call has been confirmed. Do you want us to proceed?" I turned my eyes back to my son and his wife. "Yes," I said, never breaking eye contact. The guards moved in, taking their places at every door and window. Claire gasped, clutching her pearls dramatically as if she were the victim here. "What is this?" she screamed. "You can't do this." Matthew's voice cracked. "Mum, stop this. What are you doing?" I leaned in slightly, my voice low and calm. "Protecting what's mine." Just then, the head guard handed me a folder. Inside were papers, thick, official, and impossible to argue with. I opened it slowly, letting them watch my every move. When I looked up, Claire's face drained of colour. "What's in there?" she demanded. I smirked. "Something that will change everything," I said. And with that, I closed the folder and walked away, leaving them frozen in fear as the guards locked the doors behind me. The sound of the locks clicking into place echoed through the house, sealing Matthew and Claire inside like unwelcome guests. They followed me as I walked deeper into the mansion, their voices trembling with a mix of anger and panic. "Mum, what's going on here?" Matthew demanded, his voice louder now. "Why are you acting like this?" Claire tightened her grip on his arm, her tone dripping with contempt. "Because she's lost it, that's why. All this—" She gestured around the living room, her eyes blazing with envy at the crystal chandeliers and plush furniture. "It's just a phase. She doesn't even know how to live in a place like this. We do. We're family. We deserve to be here." I stopped in my tracks and turned slowly, my gaze locking onto hers. "Deserve?" I said softly. "You think mocking me, humiliating me, using me makes you deserve anything?" She faltered, her lips parting but no words coming out. Matthew looked down, his jaw tight. "Mum, no one used you—" "Oh, don't you dare!" I cut him off, my voice rising. "You stood there while she told me I'd die poor and alone. You stood there while she laughed at the life I had. You stood there when I needed my son to defend me and you said nothing." Silence. Thick and heavy. For the first time, Matthew couldn't meet my eyes. That night, after they finally left me alone in the living room, memories flooded back. The day I signed the deed for this house. I remembered sitting in the real estate office, the pen trembling in my hand. not because I was scared, but because I knew this was my moment. When the papers were signed, the agent handed me the keys and said, "Congratulations, Mrs. Hayes. You own this place outright." Outright. No loans. No debts. This house was completely mine. I walked through the empty halls that day, tears streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from pride. Every wall, every tile, every window was proof that I had built a life for myself despite everyone's doubts. And now, the same people who doubted me wanted to claim it. Back in the present, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat calmly as Matthew and Claire paced the room like caged animals. Finally, Claire snapped, "You know what? We're not leaving. You're old and you can't keep this up. You'll need help sooner or later, and guess who will be here to take care of you? Us." Her smirk returned, smug and poisonous. "When that happens, we'll already be living here. Might as well start now." I laughed. The sound startled both of them. "You think I need you? Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea." At that moment, the head guard re-entered, nodding at me. "Ma'am, everything is ready outside." I stood and walked to the massive glass doors that opened to the backyard. Beyond them in the distance, headlights glowed as more vehicles rolled in. Movers, contractors, people ready to act on my orders. Matthew stepped forward, panic rising in his voice. "Mum, what are you doing? What's all this?" I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the folder the guard had handed me earlier. Inside were blueprints, contracts, and a list of names. This house wasn't just my home. It was part of something bigger, a development project I was spearheading. Every move I had made over the past year was carefully planned, and they were standing right in the middle of it. Claire's face twisted with rage as she snatched the folder from my hands, flipping through the pages. Her eyes widened in shock. This isn't just a house," she stammered. "No," I said, my voice steady. "It's the beginning of an empire." Before she could respond, the front gates swung open and a black limousine rolled up the driveway. Matthew swallowed hard, his voice barely a whisper. "Mum, who's here?" I smiled, stepping toward the door as the car stopped. "You'll see," I said. The back door of the limo opened slowly, and a figure stepped out. The air outside felt electric as the black limousine's door opened. A tall man in a sharp suit stepped out first, scanning the area like a hawk before holding the door for someone else. Then, a woman emerged, elegant, commanding, and familiar to anyone who followed the news. Claire's jaw dropped. "Is that?" she stammered. "Yes," I said, not taking my eyes off the woman. "That's Victoria Blake, CEO of Blake Properties." Victoria walked toward me with a confident stride, her heels clicking against the driveway stones. "Mrs. Hayes," she greeted me warmly. "Everything is finalized. Congratulations." She handed me another set of papers, this time in a sleek black folder embossed with gold lettering. Matthew blinked in confusion. "Finalized? For what?" Claire's eyes darted between us, desperate to piece things together. I opened the folder, revealing the official documents that bore my name in bold print. "This," I said, holding the papers up for them to see, "is the ownership contract for not just this mansion, but the entire surrounding property. All 50 acres. The luxury development you see breaking ground outside, I own it. Every single square foot." Claire's face turned red, her voice trembling with fury. You bought all of this?" "Yes," I said calmly. "And do you know what that means? You don't just have no rights here. You'll be trespassing if you ever set foot on this property again without my permission." Victoria smirked, clearly enjoying the scene. "And as per our deal," she added, "security has full authority to enforce that. I'll also have the legal team send a notice to anyone trying to claim residence here without authorization." Claire's smirk vanished. She clutched Matthew's arm. "This isn't fair. We're family," she screamed. I turned to her slowly, my voice cold. Family doesn't mock you when you're down. Family doesn't humiliate you. Family doesn't use you. You lost that right the day you wished me a lonely death. Matthew's voice cracked. Mom, wait, you can't just... I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his. I can, and I will. Hours earlier, before the limo arrived, I had prepared for this very moment. The legal papers were signed, the security team was on standby, and Victoria had agreed to back me up in person. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice. For every insult, every time they treated me as less than human, this was my answer. Back in the present, Claire's voice rose to a shriek. You think you can just throw us out? Where are we supposed to go? I tilted my head, almost pitying her. Maybe you can rent. It builds character. The movers entered the house behind the guards, carrying boxes labelled with my name. They began unpacking my things, setting them neatly in place as if Matthew and Claire weren't even there. The world was moving on without them, and they hated it. Matthew grabbed my arm desperately. Mum, please. We have kids. They need a home. I pulled my arm away. They need parents who teach them respect, Matthew, not entitlement. Before they could respond, one of the guards approached and whispered something in my ear. I nodded slowly, my eyes narrowing. What is it? Claire demanded. I looked at them, my expression unreadable. It seems there's more you need to know, I said. Just then, another car pulled up, this one a sleek black SUV. The guard opened the back door, and a man stepped out holding a briefcase. His presence was sharp, authoritative. Claire's voice cracked. Who is that? I turned to them with a calm smile. That, I said, is my lawyer. And he's here to serve you with something you won't see coming. The lawyer walked up the steps with measured precision, his polished shoes clicking against the stone. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. His very presence radiated authority. When he reached me, he handed over a thick envelope sealed with my name on it. Claire clung to Matthew's arm like a scared child. What is this now? She demanded, her voice shaky. I opened the envelope slowly, savouring the tension in the air. Inside were several documents, each one a dagger aimed right at the arrogance they had carried for years. I pulled out the first page and glanced at my son and his wife. These, I said, my voice sharp as a blade, are the legal eviction notices. Effective immediately, neither of you have any right to be here. You have 10 minutes to leave the property or security will escort you out. Matthew's mouth dropped open. Eviction? Mum, you can't do this to your own son. I took a deep breath, my voice trembling only slightly with the weight of the moment. I gave you everything, Matthew, and when I had nothing, you mocked me. You let her mock me. You don't get to cry family now. Claire, red-faced and furious, stepped forward. You're insane. You think a piece of paper can stop us? We'll fight this. The lawyer calmly adjusted his glasses. You're welcome to try, Mrs. Hayes, he said evenly, but you'll lose. The title, the deeds, the security contracts, they all stand with her. You have no legal claim. The colour drained from her face. She knew he wasn't bluffing. Hours before this confrontation, I had called my lawyer, Mr. Carter, to ensure every loophole was sealed. I wanted no chance of them twisting the situation. I want ironclad contracts, I told him over the phone. You'll have them, he promised. And he delivered. In the present, Claire's panic turned to desperation. You can't just throw us on the street. Where will we go? I tilted my head, my expression calm but cold. That's not my problem anymore. Matthew looked torn, his eyes darting between me and his wife. Mum, please. Think about the kids. I looked straight into his eyes, my voice breaking for just a moment. I am thinking about the kids. I want them to grow up knowing that actions have consequences. Maybe one day they'll learn from this. The guards stepped closer, ready to act. Claire grabbed Matthew's arm tighter. We're not leaving. You can't make us. The lawyer spoke up again, his tone final. Ma'am, you're trespassing. You have exactly 5 minutes to vacate, or law enforcement will be called. The clock was ticking, and they knew it. Matthew's face hardened and he turned to Claire. "Let's go," he muttered. But Claire wasn't done. Her eyes burned with hatred as she hissed at me. "You'll regret this, old woman. You think you've won? This isn't over." I stepped closer, meeting her glare with a calm smile. "Oh, it's far from over. But not in the way you think." As they stormed out, the gates closed behind them with a loud clang. I watched them leave, my heart pounding with both pain and satisfaction. Just then, Mr. Carter turned to me with an unreadable expression. "There's something else, Mrs. Hayes," he said. He opened his briefcase and pulled out another envelope, this one marked confidential. "This is about your son's finances," he said slowly. "You need to see this." My stomach dropped. "What about his finances?" I asked, my voice trembling. He handed me the documents. When I opened them and saw the first line, my eyes widened in shock. "Oh my God," I whispered. The words on the paper blurred for a moment as I tried to steady my breathing. My hands trembled slightly, but I gripped the document tighter. Mr. Carter's voice was calm, but each word felt heavy. "Your son, Matthew, has been hiding a significant amount of debt. Credit cards maxed out, unpaid loans, even a second mortgage on a house you didn't know about." I looked up sharply. "A second mortgage? On what house?" "They rent." Mr. Carter nodded grimly. "Exactly. The property isn't even in their name. It's tied to a shady loan agreement. They've been living off borrowed money, and worse." He hesitated before sliding the last page toward me. "He put your name down as a guarantor on one of the loans." The room tilted for a moment. My heart sank, and then rage replaced the shock. "He forged my signature," I said through clenched teeth. "Yes," Carter confirmed. "And if the bank moves forward, they'll come after you. Unless—" He gave me a knowing look. "We act first." Across the room, Victoria Blake raised an eyebrow. "Looks like your son's been playing a dangerous game," she said. I nodded slowly, my anger simmering beneath the surface. "He thought he could use me again," I said quietly. "He thought I wouldn't find out." Victoria smiled faintly. "Well, now you know. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Later that evening, as the mansion settled into silence, I sat alone in my study. The documents spread out before me told a story of betrayal far deeper than I imagined. Matthew hadn't just stood by while his wife mocked me. He had actively tried to drag me down with them. Every memory of the times I sacrificed for him, paying his tuition, helping with bills, babysitting his kids, flashed before my eyes. All the love I had given, only for him to repay me with lies. I wiped my tears and picked up my phone. If he wanted to play games, I'd play smarter. The next morning I made a series of calls, first to Mr. Carter. "Freeze everything tied to my name, and I want legal action against that forged signature immediately." Second, to my bank. "Pull all my funds into a private account, no shared access, no exceptions." Third, to Victoria. "Move forward with the development, double the security. I want no loose ends." That afternoon, Matthew and Claire returned. This time they didn't have smug smiles. They looked desperate, almost frantic. "Mum, we need to talk," Matthew said, his voice strained. I crossed my arms, standing at the top of the staircase. There's nothing left to say. Claire stepped forward, her makeup smudged from crying. "You don't understand. The bank is calling. They're saying they'll take everything from us." I descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. "Oh, I understand perfectly," I said, "and that's not my problem anymore." Matthew's voice cracked. "Mum, please, you can fix this. Just pay off the loan. You have the money. You can save us." I stopped right in front of him, looking directly into his eyes. "I could save you, but I won't, not this time." Suddenly, Claire's expression changed from fear to something darker. "You'll regret this," she spat. "You think you're safe in this house. You think your money protects you. You have no idea what's coming." Before I could respond, she stormed out, dragging Matthew with her. I watched them go, but her words echoed in my mind. Something in her tone wasn't just anger, it was a threat. That night, as I sat in my room, the phone rang. When I answered, an unfamiliar voice whispered, "You'd better watch your back, Mrs. Hayes. They're not done with you yet." I froze, my hand trembling around the receiver. "What did you say?" I demanded, but the line had already gone dead. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering against the wooden nightstand. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. Someone was watching me. I rushed to the security monitor in my study. The cameras displayed every angle of the property. The gates, the driveway, the back garden. Everything looked calm, but that voice on the phone had changed the air. It felt thick, charged with danger. I immediately called the head of my security team. "Double the patrols. No one comes in or out without my authorization." "Yes, ma'am," he said firmly. "We'll lock it down." The following morning, I was still shaken, but I refused to show it. I dressed in my best suit and went to meet Victoria and Mr. Carter in the dining room. "Someone is threatening me," I said bluntly. "I don't believe this is just random harassment. It's them." Mr. Carter adjusted his tie, his face serious. "It wouldn't surprise me. Matthew's debtors might be involved too. They'll use any tactic to pressure you." Victoria leaned forward, her voice calm but sharp. "Then you hit back harder. You have the money, the property, and the law on your side. Don't give them an inch." I nodded. She was right. That afternoon I stepped outside to breathe in the crisp air. The mansion grounds stretched endlessly, the sun glinting off the fountain in the courtyard. For a brief moment I felt at peace, until I noticed something. A car parked just beyond the gates. The windows were tinted and it hadn't moved in over an hour. I called the guards immediately. "Check that vehicle." 2 guards approached cautiously, weapons at their sides. The moment they neared, the car sped away, tires screeching against the pavement. My stomach sank. This wasn't just a threat anymore. They were watching me. Later that evening, I heard the front door slam open. Matthew barged in, his face pale and sweaty. "Mum, you have to help me," he gasped. "They're after me. They're after Claire. They said if I don't pay them, they'll—" He stopped mid-sentence as the guards surrounded him. "Step back, sir," one of them ordered. Matthew's voice cracked. "Mum, please, I'm your son. You can't let them do this to me." I felt my heart twist. Despite everything, he was still my child. But then I remembered the forged signatures, the lies, the mockery. I kept my voice cold. "Tell me the truth, Matthew. Who's after you?" He swallowed hard. "They're dangerous people. I borrowed from them to keep up with Claire's spending, and now they want the money. They said if I can't pay, they'll come after you." My knees almost buckled, but I stood firm. "You brought this to my doorstep," I said softly. "You endangered me." Before he could respond, Claire appeared behind him. Her eyes were wild, and in her hand she held something small and metallic, gleaming under the light. "Enough," she hissed, pointing the weapon straight at me. "You're going to transfer everything to us, now, or you won't live to see tomorrow." The guards drew their weapons, shouting for her to drop it, but she tightened her grip. Matthew shouted, "Claire, stop!" She didn't move. Her voice was icy. "I'm not leaving here empty-handed." Time seemed to slow. One wrong move, and everything would end right there in my own home. I raised my hand slowly, my eyes never leaving hers. "You have no idea what you've just started," I said quietly. And then, out of nowhere, the mansion's power cut out, plunging us all into darkness. The lights went out with a loud pop, leaving only the dim glow from the moon filtering through the windows. For a moment, there was silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Then came the sound of Claire's frantic breathing. "Stay where you are!" she screamed in the darkness, her voice trembling but still full of venom. The guards shouted commands, their flashlights cutting through the dark like sharp beams. "Drop the weapon!" one of them barked. I stood still, my heart pounding in my ears. "Claire," I said softly, my voice calm despite the fear running through my veins. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," she snapped, her voice cracking. "You took everything from us, everything. You humiliated me. You think you're better than me?" Matthew's shaky voice rose above the chaos. "Claire, put it down. This isn't the way." "Shut up, Matthew!" she screamed, her silhouette jerking toward him. "You're weak. You let her do this to us." The security team moved slowly, trying to flank her, but she noticed and raised the weapon higher. "One more step, and I'll shoot," she warned. In that split second, I knew I had to take control. "Claire," I said, my tone sharper now, cutting through the tension. "Look at me." She turned slightly, just enough for me to see the tears streaming down her face. "You think this will get you what you want? You think pointing that at me will solve anything?" Her hand trembled. I just want my life back," she whispered. "You never lost your life," I said. "You lost your soul when you wished me dead." Suddenly, a loud crash came from the back of the mansion, a window shattering followed by the sound of footsteps. The guards spun around, pointing their flashlights and weapons toward the noise. "Multiple intruders!" one of them shouted. My heart dropped. "They're here," Matthew whispered. "The people I owe. They're here!" Chaos erupted. More men in dark clothing stormed through the back entrance, masks covering their faces. They weren't here to talk. They were here to take. The guards engaged, shouting warnings and tackling the first intruder. The mansion echoed with the sounds of struggle, grunts, glass breaking, furniture crashing. Claire screamed, dropping the gun in panic as one of the masked men grabbed her arm. "No! Let me go!" she cried. Matthew lunged at the man, trying to pull her free, but another grabbed him from behind. I stood frozen for a second before Mr. Carter appeared at my side, pulling me toward the hidden panic room behind the study wall. "Mrs. Hayes, we need to get you to safety now," he urged. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not running. This is my house, my fight." The masked leader stepped into the room, his presence commanding. He pointed directly at me. "You're coming with us, now." The guards formed a line in front of me, weapons raised. "Over my dead body," the head guard growled. The intruder smirked under his mask. "That can be arranged." Before the first shot could be fired, the mansion's lights suddenly blazed back on, blinding everyone. The intruders hesitated, shielding their eyes. From the front entrance, more security forces stormed in, armed, ready, and overwhelming in numbers. Victoria Blake's voice rang out from behind them, fierce and commanding. "Step away from her, or none of you leave this property alive." The masked leader froze, his grip on his weapon tightening. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he snarled. Victoria stepped forward with a cold smile. "Oh, I know exactly who I'm dealing with." The standoff hung by a thread, every second stretching like an eternity. And then, with a voice colder than ice, I spoke the words that would decide everything. "Take them down." The room exploded into chaos the moment my words left my mouth. Security surged forward, weapons drawn, engaging the masked intruders in a brutal clash. Shouts, the sound of fists hitting flesh, and the thud of bodies hitting the floor filled the mansion. Furniture toppled, glass shattered, and the smell of fear mingled with the sharp scent of gunpowder. The masked leader lunged toward me, but two guards intercepted him mid-stride, wrestling him to the ground. He fought viciously, swinging a knife that glinted under the chandelier lights. The guards pinned him down, but he was strong, too strong. I stepped back, my breathing ragged, clutching the edge of a table for balance. Matthew broke free from one of the intruders and scrambled toward me, his face pale with terror. "Mom, get out of here!" he shouted, but I stood my ground. "No, this ends here." Claire screamed as one of the intruders dragged her by the arm toward the doorway. "Help me! Somebody help me!" she shrieked. Matthew turned, rushing to her, but another masked man blocked his path. They struggled, Matthew landing a desperate punch that sent the man stumbling backward. Victoria Blake moved like she had done this 1,000 times. She barked orders at the backup team she brought with her. Secure every exit. Don't let a single one of them leave. Within minutes, the tide began to turn. The masked men were outnumbered, their leader subdued by 3 guards who finally wrenched the knife from his hand, and then silence. The intruders were disarmed, zip-tied, and forced to kneel in the grand hall. Claire collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Matthew stood over her, shaking, his clothes torn and his face streaked with sweat. He looked at me with eyes full of shame. "Mum, I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen." I walked toward him slowly, my heels clicking against the marble like a metronome of judgment. "You never meant for it to happen, but you let it happen," I said coldly. "You brought this into my home. You endangered me. You endangered everything I've built." Victoria stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. "These men won't see daylight for a long time. I've already called law enforcement. They'll be in custody before the hour is over." The masked leader lifted his head and smirked despite the restraints. "This isn't over, lady," he hissed. "You think this stops with us? You have no idea how high this goes." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean by that?" I demanded. He just laughed, a low, chilling laugh. "You'll find out soon enough." The police arrived shortly after, taking the intruders into custody. As they were escorted out, the leader kept his eyes on me, his smirk never fading. His words echoed in my mind like a curse. That night, after everyone left and the mansion fell quiet again, I sat by the fireplace. The adrenaline had faded, replaced by exhaustion. Matthew sat across from me, his head in his hands. "I don't know how to fix this," he whispered. "You can't," I said softly. "Some things can't be fixed. They can only be rebuilt from the ground up." Claire didn't say a word. She stayed in the corner, trembling, her pride shattered into pieces. Just as I began to think the worst was over, my phone buzzed. A new message. I picked it up, and my breath caught when I saw the text. "You got lucky tonight. Next time, we won't miss. V." My hands shook as I read it again. "Who is V?" I whispered to myself. Before I could think, another message came through. "You'll know when I knock on your door." A chill ran down my spine. Somewhere out there, someone even more dangerous was watching me. I looked at Matthew and Claire, both pale and broken, and said, "This isn't over. It's just beginning." The message glowed on my phone screen, each word crawling into my mind like poison. "You'll know when I knock on your door." I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. This wasn't just a random threat. It was personal. Whoever V was, they weren't finished with me. I called the head of security immediately. "No one leaves or enters without clearance. Triple the guards. Every camera stays live 24/7. "Yes, ma'am," he replied, already barking orders into his radio. Morning came, but the tension in the mansion didn't fade. Every sound made me jump. Every shadow seemed suspicious. Matthew barely spoke, sitting at the edge of the sofa with his head in his hands. Claire, her face pale and hollow, whispered to him repeatedly, "We need to get out of here." But they didn't move. They were trapped in their own fear. Later that day, Victoria Blake returned, accompanied by her private security detail. "You've stirred up a hornet's nest," she said, her eyes sharp as she scanned the room. "Who is V?" I asked. Victoria hesitated. "There's a man known in underground circles by that initial, Victor Hale. He controls a web of illegal loans, blackmail, and extortion. If Matthew borrowed from the wrong people, it's likely Hale's network." My heart sank. "So this is because of my son." Victoria placed a hand on my shoulder. "He made the mistake, but you're the target. Hale doesn't forgive debts. He uses them to control people. And he knows you have what he wants: money." That evening, I decided to end this game. I summoned Mr. Carter, the lawyer, and laid out my plan. I want everything tied to my name secured, every account locked, every asset hidden under a trust he can't touch. And I want information, everything you can find on this Victor Hale. Mr. Carter nodded firmly. I'll handle it. But you should prepare yourself. This won't be easy. Just as the sun began to set, the mansion's gates creaked open. Security rushed to the front yard, shouting into radios. I stepped to the window and froze. A single black car rolled slowly up the driveway. The driver's face was hidden behind tinted glass. The car stopped in front of the steps, the engine humming ominously. Matthew stood up abruptly, panic in his eyes. It's him, he whispered. The driver's door opened. A tall man in a tailored suit stepped out, his presence cold and commanding. His dark eyes scanned the property before landing directly on me through the window. The front doors swung open, and the man walked in with no hesitation, despite the guards raising their weapons. I'm not here to fight, he said calmly, his voice deep and unsettling. I'm here to talk. Victoria stepped forward, blocking his path. You're trespassing, he smirked. Not yet, but I could be if we can't come to an understanding. My heart pounded as I stepped into the foyer. You must be Victor Hale. He nodded slightly, a cruel smile tugging at his lips. You're smarter than most. Good. This will save time. I held my ground. What do you want from me? He took a slow step forward, his eyes never leaving mine. I want what your son owes me. And if you don't pay... He glanced around the mansion with a mocking grin. This pretty house becomes a battlefield. You wouldn't want that, would you? Matthew tried to speak, but Victor raised a hand. This isn't your conversation, boy. You made a deal. Now your mother pays the price. I took a deep breath, my voice steady. You think you can threaten me in my own home? You think you can scare me? Victor's smile widened. I don't think. I know. I stepped closer, just inches from him, my voice like ice. You're in my house. My rules. You came here thinking I'd beg, but here's the truth. I turned to Victoria and Mr. Carter, who both nodded, as if they knew what was coming. Everything you think I own, it's already locked, untouchable. You'll get nothing from me. Victor's grin faded, his eyes narrowing. You're playing a dangerous game, lady. I smiled faintly. No, you are. And you just lost. At that exact moment, sirens wailed outside. Police cars flooded the driveway, red and blue lights flashing. Officers poured in, surrounding Victor and his men. Mr. Carter stepped forward, holding up a document. Mr. Hale, you're under arrest for extortion, forgery, and multiple outstanding warrants. You've been exposed. Victor's eyes burned with rage as officers cuffed him. This isn't over, he hissed as they dragged him out. Oh, it's over, I said coldly. And you'll rot where you belong. The mansion fell silent after they took him away. Matthew collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, Mum. I never wanted this to happen. I looked at him, my heart aching but my resolve firm. You need to leave, both of you. Go rebuild your lives far from mine. Claire didn't argue this time. She just nodded, broken. As they walked out of my gates for the last time, I felt the weight lift from my shoulders. Days later, I stood on the balcony of my mansion, the sun setting in brilliant shades of gold. The nightmare was over. I had fought back. I had survived. And I had won. The phone rang beside me. Victoria's voice came through, calm and proud. You did it. You stood your ground. Yes, I said softly. And I'll never let anyone take that away again. I looked out at the sprawling property that was truly mine. For the first time in years, I felt free. If this story moved you, taught you the power of standing your ground, and showed that strength doesn't always shout, it endures, then like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to be reminded. Never let anyone write your ending.